Okay, we're going to talk about Substance Painter. We're going to take our object from 3ds Max that we've already textured. And so I've got my object here, and I want to make sure that it's straight up and down like this. And I'm going to put it to the center of the screen. And if yours is like this, just right-click these spinners to zero it out. And then I'm going to export this. I'm going to go File, Export, Export Selected. And I'm going to make a file for this. Let's just go New. I'm going to say and Max saves. Substance Painter saves. Maps. I'm going to say for, let's go Max to Substance, Assets, and I'm going to go start out with Max to Substance. We'll call this Sword, and I'm going to keep it as an FBX and hit Save. And I'm going to export the smoothing groups and embed media. That's just the material and some of the files connected to it. And I'm going to make sure that I save this whole file. So I'm just going to go File, Save As. Go to that file. Let's see. Max saves. Spell that correctly. The date, 3. And I'm going to put _1. So it's this date. This is the first time I've saved it. Now we're going to jump into Substance Painter. Yields will look like this, something similar. I'm going to go to File, New, Select. This is the low poly. This is just importing the object. I'm going to find it. Max to Substance. Bring this object in. I'm going to make sure I have Auto Unwrap off. Hit OK. Now, if I hold down Alt and I click, I can pan. And the light's not on this side. So if I hold down right click and I drag with holding Shift, so I hold Shift and right click to rotate the light, click and drag, Alt click, hold Alt and click to turn, rotate. And middle mouse, and with Alt being held to pan. And now what I want to do is I want to start texturing this object. So I'm going to go to Layers, and this base layer doesn't do anything. I'm just going to hit Trash, and I'm going to add a fill. Now, fill is just a default material, and what I want is the texture I made in Photoshop. So I'm just going to go in here, and I'm going to drop it in, and I'm going to drop it to this section, and I'm going to say I want it sent to the textures file in here, and I want to make sure that it's with this project. So this is this session, and if I restart it, I'll lose this file. This texture that I'm adding to this save will be loaded every time I do this. And if I click this bottom one, it's going to save it to my Substance Painter file, meaning that every time I make another object, the file will get bigger and bigger. So I want this one. Hit OK. Import. I'm going to save this really quick. Just go File, Save As. I'm going to go to Substance Saves. There it is. _1. Now I've got my file here, and I'm going to go to my layer. I'm going to scroll down over here, and I'm going to go to base color. I'm going to drag and drop it. This object has 2 pieces to it. So this is items, this is the other sword. So I'm going to come back here, do the same exact thing. I exported 2 objects. Now this object here is just the picture. I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to say metallic. I'm just going to drag metal so that it's more metallic, the reflections. But I don't want the handle to be metallic like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add another fill layer like this. And let's just say I'm going to turn off, I don't care about the normal map. I don't care about the height. I may care about the roughness. I'm going to put this material on base color. And I'm going to say, I want this one to be way more rough. But I don't want it here where this sword is, because now it stops being metal and just becomes a picture of metal. So I've got metalness. I don't want this to be metal at all. And so this is here everywhere. I want it to just be here. So I'm going to say, I'm going to add a mask, and I'm going to say a black mask so that it shows everything. And with the black mask selected, I can click and I can draw these pieces back. I can zoom in, and I'm not getting the other side. I mean, I am because of the size. I'm right clicking to adjust the size, the draw of it. Like I'm getting rid of the shininess here. If I press X, I turn that from black. See, this is white with X, black. So white will erase, black will draw it back. And I can come down here to make adjustments to it. Just like in Photoshop, the same tools. So this is black to white, and pressing X just jumps between the two. So I can come through, get these sections. I lost a section of the material. I'll have to paint that back in. I'm holding Shift and right clicking to rotate the light. I'm just making sure the cloth section of the handle looks like cloth. And the metal sections look like metal. Now I can change pieces. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to add another layer. And I'm going to make this a brass kind of gold material. So I'm going to go here, grab a little bit of an orange, something like that. Fully metal, say roughness, something like that. And looks like this object is its own separate piece. Don't know how that got on its own separate layer, but I'm just going to go back to this object. I'm going to grab this and I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy this layer. I'm going to go to this one and I'm going to paste this layer. I'm just going to right click, paste. And so I just copied that gold to this material. I'm going to go back to this section, turn the gold off. And so now that thing, this separate object, has its own material. I'm going to add another fill layer. And this layer, I'm going to adjust the height. So I'm going to say height. I'm just going to press it into the object. So I'm going this way. And so you can tell what I'm doing. I'm going to add a mask, just a black mask. And I'm just drawing with the white. I can always hit X, cut that out. So you can see how the depth works. And this is mask. I click over here to go to this side. And by adjusting the scale, you can see what it does to the object. It's not actually poking out of the object. It's just making it, giving it the illusion that it is. So we've got a section like that. And now what I'm going to do is, let's just say we're going to fix some texture. So I'm going to get rid of this height section, and I'm going to put this at 0 and just select this and press 0 and press enter, and say I need to repair this on a layer. So your Photoshop texture is missing a section between two pieces, and I want to fill those in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up a layer and I'm going to add a fill or a paint bucket layer. There's a couple of different ways to do it. I'm just going to add a fill, and let's see. I'm going to add a black mask to hide everything. I'm going to go here and I'm going to select this color. And I'm going to tell this black mask to fill in these sections. I'm going to go to metallic. and try to copy the same roughness. Now I just got to get the same color. I'm just trying to get it to match. To cover up the sections that I'm missing from the pictures and from the references, I can add a paint layer. And what this is going to let me do is sample. So I'm just going to click eyedropper, grab here, and paint. And I'm going to say I want it to be metallic when I paint. Holding shift and right click, and roughness. I'm basically just moving the specular highlight onto it so that I adjust it. Trying to get something that's similar so that I don't see that it's obviously there. And I'm going to turn down the flow. This just basically means that as I'm drawing, it won't go on 100% power. So when you're using a tablet, this is how you fill in the gaps. Now you don't have to use just this pure brush. I can actually go down, and I've got alphas and stencils. So in this section here, I can click, or I can go over here, and I've got I'm just clicking through alphas, and these are brushes. So if I click this one and I go to my stencil, I'm just going to drag this onto it. It's going to let me draw with this piece. Let's go to stencil, let's go to alpha. Here. So I've dragged it onto this section. So it'll say alpha. I'm just going to grab this texture section, put it here, make my brush larger. And let's just turn it up so you can see what it obviously does. And I'm going to go scroll down. I'm going to pick black so it's even more obvious. It's just more like a Photoshop brush. And I'm just trying to give it some texture. To try to break it up so that it's not just solid. And once I'm done, it's like there's a normal error in there I'm going to have to fix inside Max, but we'll say this is good. Scoot this out of the way. And I'm going to make sure I save this again by hitting save. And I'm going to go file, and I'm going to export textures. And I'm going to say save this to my desktop file that I made, martial art objects, substance, and this should be maps. I'm just going to hit select. This is just telling it where to save the textures. I'm going to tell it that I want it the way that it saves for the output. I'm going to go to PBR, metallic roughness, and then dilation. I'm going to go to dilation, transparent. This just means that from the edges of the UV island, it's going to put 16 pixels of duplication afterwards. I'm going to hit export, and I'll show you the difference between those. I'm going to go back to settings, and I'm going to set this to infinite. And let's see. Yeah, I think we'll come back. Oh, all right. In this section, I can hit open directory, and we can look at what it gave us. Here's the sword, and the normal UV island stops here, and then it's 16 pixels up. It duplicates, so there's no seams. And because it's the PBR metal, I get a normal map, I get a metallic map, a roughness map, and a height map. These are what we're going to take into Max and Unreal and anything to make the sword look like it does inside Substance Painter. That's the overall idea for how to use Substance Painter. And you're just going to be taking one of these objects. And if I also come through here, this is symmetry in case your object is symmetrical. Mine isn't. And these are the settings for symmetry. So I can move the object symmetry around. Show plane, so I can actually adjust it and see where the symmetry actually goes. And I can change it to different angles. And then this view is sometimes how it is on both sides whenever you start Substance Painter. This lets me see the object on this side and lets me see the UVs on this side. I don't like to see that, so I like to do 3D only. But that should be enough stuff for you to paint one object inside Substance Painter, save the file, and get the textures out of it so that we can work on this next class. Okay, that should be it.